Thank you, everybody that's organised this evening. Contrary to popular opinion, I don't speak from notes, but I do go over in my head what I'm going to talk about. And I Googled one thing, and the one thing that made me stop and then just think, I just got to say this and sort of present a challenge, is every 2 days in this country, a woman is killed by a partner or intimate family member. In the world, it's every 10 minutes. Just that statistic is absolutely outrageous and shocking. And then you realise, where are all those stories? So there are some stories that make you stop when you're scrolling, but in the vast majority of those cases, actually, you don't stop because you never hear about them, or they're third on the news, on the local news, not on the national news. And then that made me think just how much of women's lives that sort of behaviour is internalised and accepted as just background noise. That 70% of women have experienced sexual harassment in any given situation. 70%. It's a lived experience I can never, ever have because I'm not a woman. I don't need to walk at night with my keys in my hand or my phone. I don't need to make a big deal of it because it's not my lived experience. My lived experience of being a politician is not for taking abuse just because I'm a woman, and in particular a young woman. That's not my lived experience. And it's really helpful just to challenge yourself and think for a second of all those things when it comes to women we as a society just internalise and accept. That when I go to the toilet, where I was over the weekend doing a course, because it's an old building, the men's toilets are just there, whereas the women's toilets were an afterthought. They're up the stairs and around the back. How many buildings do we know that's like that? How many societal outputs that women, in general, are an afterthought in this society? We cater for men, and then we think about women. How much of that is just the internalised, everyday experience of women? So I don't think it starts with me and it starts with men. I think it ends with men, because that's where it started, but that's where it must stop. There's no easy answer in society. We can all sign a pledge. We can all put our name on a website. We can all wear a badge. But it's actions and outcomes rather than platitudes that matter. And that's my challenge to everybody in the room, whether you're in a position of power or not, because we all hold the ability to challenge, and we all hold the ability to speak power to truth. And so I'm not going to use my 6 minutes. What I'm going to ask is just think. Just think about every time over the next 2 days, 4 days, 6 days, a woman in this country is killed by a partner. If that was somebody jumping out on them, it would be all over the news. Because it's somebody they know, we internalise that as society. The challenge is to the police to stop saying things like, we're not looking for anybody else. This is an isolated incident. It's not an isolated incident. It is an everyday occurrence. The challenge to the council to make sure that we provide service on an equal basis. The challenge to all of us to not scroll past that story because it's not a surprise, and just think that the more we challenge, the more we say that is not right, not just on violence, not just on abuse, but for the fundamental problem that in this country and across the world, we really treat women as second-class citizens in society. That's not right. And it does start with men, because it started with men, but it needs to end with men. Because if it doesn't, we won't change. And so I ask that you reflect on that. Every 10 minutes, in the time we're in this room, 6 women in this world will have been killed by a partner or an intimate family member. 6 women, 50,000 a year. And most of that goes completely unrecognised by anybody outside of that family unit. We need to change and we need to challenge. And that's my pledge. Because it can't continue.